And so this is how we begin, Lisa. We just start rolling right into it. You may be nervous. I may be nervous. You may be nervous, and that's all right. So this is how we start.
All right.
So welcome. Welcome to you. We're so pleased that you tuned in again. As we always like to mention at the outset of our latest episode, this is part of Ridgeview's Crisis Response Team effort. This podcast is made possible in part through funding from the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. We always keep our helpline listed up here for you. It is available from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day of the week. So if we can be of support to you, please call us. We'll be talking a little bit about that today. My guest, dear friend, Lisa Winkle. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good for you. Good for you to be here. This is an important topic, so let's set the stage a little bit. Part of your role and responsibility at Ridgeview is that you are the facilities coordinator, outpatient manager at the Morgan County Clinic.
Correct.
You also are the outpatient therapist for people that are seen there.
Right.
And you're also a member of the crisis response team at Ridgeview.
Right.
So part of that process is all of the folks involved in that went through training to be a counselor for people that call that number.
Right.
So far, I'm on track. So one of the neat things that this program affords us is helping the people that help people.
Right.
We're on track.
Yes.
So how that plays out is, I guess we at Ridgeview kind of call it a debriefing phone call. So talk me through, how is that set up?
Once a week, we have a Zoom meeting, and the focus is dealing with stress, the things that happen, whether it's work-related or in your personal life, that can make things difficult for you to do your job and take care of clients or family members. People that help people are not good at taking care of themselves. And so there's a lot of discussion about the little things that you can do just to make the pressure a little less, like a pressure cooker taking the steam off, the pressure out.
Yeah. That's well said. We're not very good stewards of our own
We are not.
health, are we? Yeah.
We are not. So, we've been doing this for several months now, and I think everybody kind of looks forward to the opportunity to just share a little bit. We don't have to get real personal, but just, my husband's ill and COVID is making it difficult to get health care in a safe way, and I feel the weight of the world, not sleeping well, things that happen in everyday life. And so then we start talking about the little things that you can do to kind of relieve the pressure, change your focus from, oh my God, to, oh, the birds are singing today. Just little things like that that can help make things seem more manageable. We talk a lot about that.
Yeah. Well, you are the host of the debriefing call, and I know it's an enormous responsibility and can be even a big burden. But I got to tell you, Lisa, you do an incredible job of facilitating that call. Though I did do some of the crisis counseling calls early on in the process. I've sort of backed off that in the last several months, but I still tune into that call whenever I can because it's awesome. It's a very technical word, but it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is. I think it has made a difference for everybody that participates, and it's done in a friendly, accepting, non-judgmental way, and that's what we try to provide for our clients. But there again, we don't do a good job of taking advantage of what we know about stress management unless somebody kind of nudges. So sometimes it's just a little nudge.
I know we may call it a debriefing Zoom, but I think I would almost, it feels to me more like a support group.
Absolutely,
experience.
absolutely. You know, crises take different forms, and you can experience on a continuum of intensity the stress that goes with dealing with a crisis. And one of the most important things, I think, is helping people understand that the reactions are very common. A crisis is a crisis, and how you respond to that. A lot of times you go into autopilot and you don't really think things through, and then when it's over, you know, and so being able to take care of yourself is crucial.
Well,
So.
you mentioned something I think that's so important. You know, though this is part of all of this funding and framing is predicated on disaster response, crisis response. Now, most disasters of this type that are funded through FEMA, TEMA, Department of Mental Health Substance Abuse Services is kind of predicated on an incident like a tornado, a earthquake, a fire, a singular event.
Right.
We're living in this chronic, what seems to be a never-ending disaster crisis.
Right.
So
it doesn't have an end date, and it just keeps mounting and mounting. And a lot of people are talking about being so tired of having to think, now, did I wash my hands? Do I have my mask? Is it safe to go to the grocery store? Just the basic needs, and this invisible disaster. You can't see it, but you can feel it.
Right.
And it's overwhelming a lot of times.
No, that's well said. You know, I think, again, why I almost experience it more as support, in that, and you know me, I use words like sanctuary and things that you may not typically find in this field, but it is an hour of sanctuary, because I know it's a safe time to talk about not only how professionally the pandemic may be impacting me or my responsibilities, but also personally, things that are happening in my life, in my family's life, in my in-laws, in my parents. And you don't get those opportunities to, in the hustle and bustle of doing your day-to-day job stuff, you aren't afforded an opportunity to maybe be more vulnerable, which is a healthy thing to do.
I think you're right in recognizing how it impacts you as an individual. That carries over into relationships on a personal nature, but also relationships and ability to do tasks at work and take care of the people that we are responsible for taking care of. If you're not doing well yourself, it can negatively impact the service that you provide.
You know, you do, one of the other things that you do really well is you know, whether there's 3 people on the call or 10 people on the call, you make sure that everyone has an opportunity to say what's on their mind, what's on their heart, what they're thinking and feeling, and having that opportunity to hear other people really validates.
Absolutely.
Boy, what I'm thinking and feeling, I'm not alone. There are other people going through this.
Absolutely. It's common. It's everywhere. And so I think giving people an opportunity to hear ideas or what somebody else may have done that just helped for 5 or 10 minutes to take a deep breath and refocus and be able to move on. People have talked about running as a way to relieve stress. People have talked about doing arts and crafts or spending time with their children playing. And those are all excellent stress management techniques. Just refocus and enjoy. And we forget that when you're weighed down, that there are positives in the environment too. You can't see the pandemic, but you can see happiness and you can see pleasure. Sometimes you have to search for it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of pleasure and happiness, you seem to derive pleasure and happiness from actually facilitating the call.
I do. It is support. And even though I may be facilitating the group, I get support from it as well. And watching people kind of relax a little bit and the shoulders kind of coming up and the smiles, that for me is stress reduction and meaningful. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, you can tell. And that's, I think, what helps bring so many of us back is not only what happens in that time, but knowing we're in good hands.
Well, thank you.
One last thing. There seems to be this, now I'm curious what you think about this parallel sort of process where when I think of people who may be struggling, may feel alone, isolated, uncertain about what to do, whether or not their thoughts and feelings are common, maybe they need some validation. The interesting aspect of what we do in that debriefing or support call feels very much like what someone who may call that number can expect to get.
Right. It's people helping people. There's nothing magical about it. It's just support and kindness and being able to relate. And I think when you take the mystery out of it, it makes it a lot more beneficial.
Yeah, I think that brings us to, I think, in a good conclusion, because part of me thinks our helpline is, it may be a COVID-19 helpline, but it sure feels more like a human helpline.
Human, absolutely.
So that's could you envision Ridgeview continuing a group of this type after the pandemic is over? Some sort of ongoing debriefing support group for folks that want it?
I think stress is stress. And there may be a pandemic that has made us focus on self-care. But there are other crises that happen in people's lives every day, whether it's a client or a family member or a coworker. And I would love to continue to offer this kind of support to anybody.
Well, Ridgeview, I think, has really tried to hone its ability to be a trauma-informed system of care, and this, to me, fits in beautifully under that umbrella of trying to refine and hone and integrate trauma-informed principles into what we do. So, yeah, we'll see. Now, see, that wasn't all that bad, was it?
Wasn't. Worked pretty good, I hope.
And just like that, we've come to an end. Thank you again for being here. It really means a lot to me. I think it means a lot to folks that tune into this to hear from you. I hope you'll come back at some point. We'll talk about birds.
We can talk about birds.
Or whatever you like.
Right.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll continue to follow us. Don't forget to subscribe to the Ridgeview channel on YouTube. And as I'm told, ring that bell so that you receive the notification of our weekly podcast recording. And don't forget to make use of the helpline number if you need it. Thanks, folks. Have a good rest of the day.